Oh, man. Okay, we got to edit something. Remove it. You'll never let me do this. Hi, welcome to Spiritual Alchemy Energy Transfigurations, the podcast. Tonight we've got Sarah and Michelle, and we're talking about Dark Night of the Soul and Ascension signs and symptoms. So does anybody have their own definition of Dark Night of the Soul?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. All right, go ahead, Sarah, and then I'll go with mine.
Okay. It just feels like one of those things that everyone experiences at some point in their life to some degree. As you know, you get slapped in the face by life and you kind of hit your quote unquote rock bottom. And then it is an opportunity, if you're able to see it that way, to step into a different state of being. And the metaphor that I love to use for this is like in the Wizard of Oz, when they go into the forest and they meet the lion, they're all linked arms and they're like going into this dark, scary place. And it's like, you know, what kind of beasts are we going to meet in here? And it's descending into your own darkness to meet your fear. The lion who has no courage, right? And he's scary to everyone else because he feels like he's lacking something, and it's something that we don't want to look at. But then, you know, they all go out of the forest together and they meet someone who they think can help them. But it's really, you know, they're all just archetypes within ourselves.
I love that. Love it. The way I describe Dark Night of the Soul is, like Sarah said, once you hit that rock bottom, you start to look at all the things that no longer serve you, whether it's food, behavior, people, ways of thinking. But it's where you really just stop trying to control things and you give in to going with the flow of life. So you're able to just pull out all the things that work against you. For example, your shadow aspects, like the skeletons in your closet, all the things you don't want to tell your partner when you're getting married, right? Those are shadow things that you just don't want to talk about. But in particular, it's desires that drive you to gain in dark ways. For instance, when I was going through a divorce and I wasn't ready for it, I was trying to control the situation to make it go in my favor, but I ended up making dark choices that weren't in alignment with who I am, and it really didn't manifest what I wanted anyways. And what manifested was what Source had in plan for me. But, you know, just attempting to take control of the manifestations instead of allowing the law of attraction to do the work. And we shift from the 7 deadly sins to the 7 heavenly virtues. That's how I see the Dark Night of Soul. And I had a book I wanted to refer to, so I'm going to get it. But yeah, I just think it's those aspects of opposing. What was the word you used? The different aspects of ourselves.
The archetypes.
The archetypes, yes. And the path that those archetypes are on. And how can we get all those different archetypes in alignment? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I've got my own. It's deconstructing beliefs about oneself and their belief patterns. to get to the true essence of our spiritual being and closer to the divine, which is just another way of what you've already said here. Shedding ego to grow into original divine being. And with that process, sometimes we go through some very, that's like a crisis period, right? I know for me, I lost faith in humanity altogether. It was a very dark place to go. No hope. Hold on. And you struggle to find anything meaningful, and having the connection of why you're here. You know, that's what it was for me. I don't know if you want to share your personal experience with the Dark Night of the Soul. I know I've got another one coming, or I'm in one kind of. I mean, you go through so many, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of get used to it. It's like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, totally. I feel like, and you know, I'm an astrologer, so I see a lot of different charts and a lot of different patterns for different people. But there's definitely certain things that go on in certain people's lives that are like, depending on where your Pluto is or what aspects you have to it, that's, you're going to be more likely to have these experiences over and over and over again. And you're going to feel actually like more comfortable with them. Like, it's like, oh, this is happening again. What are you here to teach me? Rather than like it ruins your life, or like you just ignore it, or, whatever people do to kind of cope with these things.
Absolutely.
I agree. I've been thinking a lot about my Capricorn-ness, and I'm really into memes that joke Capricorn astrological behaviors, because those are part of ourselves that I'm like, am I ever gonna just not be this? Like,
Yeah.
ever gonna transcend this? Because this is part of who I am. So it's challenging, but those different our astrological signs really do point to a lot of our shadow aspects and help us open the door to our shadow aspects. And what I use, and you can also use something like the human design, where you go through and you get like a behavioral, I don't know exactly what it does, but I utilize calendar galactic signature. And on one of the websites that I go to, it really lays out your shadow aspects and how to transcend them.
Oh, wow.
Start there with a client, to get them to sort of think about their shadow aspects, not really like I, drink a drink at night to settle me down. That's not a shadow aspect per se. So just learning what is a shadow aspect. Sometimes people think it's bad behavior, but it's not really bad behavior per se.
Maybe it's more like what is underneath the quote unquote bad behavior.
There you go. The driving factor. And you touched on that, Julie, the driving factor. And this, to me, sort of correlates to the Zen Buddhism concept of emptiness, right? We have to empty ourselves of everything that was in our past that brought us to where we were, so that we can make room for something new. And when your ego's like, you shift and you actually see your ego, and you're not driven by quick ways of attaining or getting things, you're going, okay, now what am I actually doing? What am I in life for? So you're on point there. You come up with a different driving factor to, what brings you happiness in life?
Life purpose. And for us, we've become healers, right?
Exactly.
So a lot of that deprogramming and deprogramming patterns and reactions and how we react to certain circumstances. And we kind of, I guess we kind of stand back from ourselves and are able to see ourselves and how we behave so we can make that change and be awake and aware, right?
Yeah. And to actually open up your throat chakra and say, okay, yes, I'm human, I'm flawed, I did that, or this happened to me, is really huge, to be able to do those things and apologize. I'm not the best mom, but I do believe I am the best mom all at the same time, because when I screw up, I apologize to my kids and I say I didn't mean that, or was angry in that moment, or this was what was going on with me. And mom is flawed too. We're just human beings. So showing that you can just apologize and recognize is huge.
Absolutely. And forgive yourself as well, because in some circumstances there's trauma and you have to forgive yourself that you went through this trauma. It's not, it's not your fault. And then on the other hand, yeah, you screwed up and it's like, okay, just like Michelle was saying, we're not perfect. We make mistakes.
And just because we're healers doesn't mean we're perfect and we have it all
figured out, right?
Exactly. We're just on that path too. We're just sharing what works for us.
So I feel that the dark night of the soul goes right along with Ascension signs and symptoms. Would you not agree with that, or would you agree?
I definitely agree to that. And what is really important that I've learned as a healer is when I'm assisting people going through their own dark night of the soul, that it really does need to be incremental. Because if we say to ourselves that we're going to literally let go of everything all at once, we're pulling the rug right out from under our own selves. So that's huge. How about you guys? Have you experienced that?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I'm just like this crazy warrior person where it's like, let's get it done. I want to be done. So I'm running around in the walls and circles, So, yeah, I've learned that, you got to slow down and take it easy. I mean, and even I think I'm still struggling with that kind of mentality. Just, you can't control this. Stop trying to control it. Uh-oh, we lost Sarah. So
I agree. And it's really challenging to, when I go too fast, too hard on clients, new clients, I feel really bad because I don't want to discourage them from healing. I want that healing to keep going. Yay, Sarah's back. And so I feel like
technology is not working for me today.
Oh, that's okay. That happened to me last time. And this time I was like, I'm doing this from my house. Not having any mess ups this time. But I've experienced where I've done too much on a client and they'll have like an allergic reaction, or I've seen others, not my own self, but other people who've become Reiki certified and then like had stiff jaw, or weird things happen because they've let go of too much too fast.
Mm-hmm.
I've
That actually happened to me.
Ooh, let's hear, Sarah.
tell you
So
have
this
to.
is like, this is a really long story, but I will kind of abridge it. So I was trained in Reiki here in Reno by my good friend Dana Nelsh, and he's an amazing Reiki master. And I took all 3 attunements with him over the course of about a year, and my health has never been like amazing, but after I got my master attunement, things started to really unravel. And ever since then, I've had a lot of like kind of low grade, like systemic symptoms, like digestive issues and fatigue and all sorts of things. And I've been to doctors, I've been to all sorts of healers. You know, I myself have a certificate in holistic nutrition. I can't figure it out. I'm just really sensitive. And that's what I always tell people. I'm just really sensitive.
And that seems like the Reiki opened you up, that sensitivity, right?
Yeah.
It opened up even more so.
Yep. And I think that it's, you know, because of whatever I dealt with in my childhood and in my family and in my past, those were things that to keep myself safe psychologically and energetically, wasn't allowing myself to experience. And so the attunements actually were like, okay, well, now you have to feel all of these things. So just, you know, like a lifetime of all the things that I wasn't able to feel just now all over the place.
And the key word you used was unravel. So you spent that whole lifetime raveling up. And at what age did you get Reiki certified? You spent that
Yeah.
many years raveling up.
Yep.
That's the challenge, because too far in it, are we giving ourselves enough time to heal?
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you a little synopsis of. I had 2 Reiki sessions. They were far apart from me. They're both. They were like, you know, a few weeks apart. And what I experienced is I had rashes. I've never experienced rashes in my life, but
Wow.
I had rashes coming up on my legs. I had legs shaking. Then I also like felt like I had like the flu. I went to the doctor, and please, if you think you're sick, go to the doctor if you're watching this. But I knew they were Ascension symptoms.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, the doctor gave me like 9 different medicines, but I knew that, you know, it wasn't going away. So I ended up going to the ER. They're like, oh, you got allergies. No, no. And then let's talk about the 3 a.m. thing. How'd you guys do? Did you guys wake up at 3 a.m. for a while?
For a long, long
I
time.
mean, it's kind of off and on for me.
Oh, wow. Still? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
I don't know if I'll ever get over that. But.
I know. I don't know when. I finally feel like I've gotten over the ear ringing. That has stopped. That subsided for now. But that was significant for me for a couple of years, the ear ringing.
Oh, wow.
And then I always have this joke about Ascension, because, you know, our partners or our family members don't always get it, you know, and like, how do I explain to my dinner tonight, I have Ascension symptoms without him breaking up with me, right? Going, this girl's crazy, send her to the ER, like, come on, what's going on? And I'm thinking a lot, you know, how do you do that, you know?
Well, I mean,
Different times, or your family members, they start to think you're nuts.
Yeah, that's happening.
they should just know that you are, and that's the end of it.
They should. But how do you explain Ascension to somebody who's not in Ascension?
Yeah, that is a really
Or
good
has gone
question.
through it.
It's taken me a really long time to like kind of prime my family members. You know, they have known me my whole life, and they've known me through all of the health issues that I've had. And I finally got to a point, like around the time that my mother died 3 years ago, where I eventually just came out and I was like, there are certain situations that I physically cannot be in because of the energy, and I need to remove myself.
Yeah.
That's not something that I can compromise on.
And I'll just say, I don't expect you to understand. It just is what it is. Because I've taken myself out of the whole family circle. Like, I don't go around any family drama. And I take my healing seriously. And even if I have friends who knock me out of my zone, I'm done with them. I've got a job to do. I'm going to work. I'm doing healing. This is it. Like, you've got to support me on this, because, and that I did get that support. I do feel when I was telling, you know, when I got laid off and then I bought crystals, and I'm having to tell my partner this is going to be my new career, it's kind of an awkward conversation, you know? And I'm going, what are you going to think about me when I say I'm going to be a crystal healer now? And then when I start yoni,
But so, ooh.
I'm going to steam vaginas now. But I really have been supported, and I love that, because you know, some of my outside family members have been goofy about it, but as they wake up, they're coming going, oh, now I see what you're doing, Michelle. Now I see. So now they're getting it, because they're all waking up.
Yeah. Well, that 3 a.m. just like, oh man, took me for a loop. I'm like, I'm like, okay, these spirit guides just don't understand time. So I'm like, okay, I will do my work. I made a deal with them. I'm like, look, I go on a clock and a calendar here. You're gonna have to give me at least till 5 o'clock, okay? It worked.
They're like, that's when our clock out time is done. You're on our schedule. And I tell that's another thing the galactic signature helps me tell clients. When I know they're a crown chakra powerhouse, I tell them, your life on earth is insignificant. Like, your only job maybe should be like at Jack in the Box or Starbucks barista. Your work is in the cosmos when you're asleep. And when you wake up, you need to do a lot of self-care, and you need to do a minimal thought job. So that's another thing that galactic signature helps me do.
Interesting. Okay.
That's fascinating.
I lost some friends and family from you know, they had to go bye-bye. That's hard. Going through this.
Yeah.
maybe there's a
Don't
lot
take it personal. Just don't take it personal.
Oh, well, yeah.
Go.
It was meant to happen, it had to happen because of where I'm at today, so there's a lot of ascension signs and symptoms out there that maybe that you want to share, maybe that you haven't experienced yourself, but maybe you had clients experience those. Well, you said ringing in the ears, feeling sick. I had rashes, digestive issues.
That is really huge for me is the digestive issues, even more so.
But
It's
still,
crazy. Yeah, and I've started doing some coffee enemas when I'll get bound up, and it really helps. It does, and I have been taking more digestive enzymes and different things like that to help me with my digestion. But then there's certain days that I just can't eat very well.
yeah, and from what I read, I did a lot of reading when I was going, when I first was awakening, and it can go either way. You can be constipated or diarrhea. It depends on how it hits you, right?
Exactly. And that's another thing to even address when you're doing Reiki sessions and you have people, clients who maybe they have never been to a Reiki session. I say, don't make plans that day.
Right.
You want to go out dancing. You might get the runs. You might have, you might be having the rashes. You might have headaches, right? We get that a lot. Do you find that certain ascension symptoms are related to different planets, Sarah?
I think that in general, there are certain transits that you'll probably see across parts of your chart if you're going to have any sort of, physical issues at all. Like the moon is related to the body, the first house is related to the body, Venus oftentimes is related to the body. And if you have transits with any of those planets or over the first.
Oh, we lost her. Dang it. That was a good conversation.
I know.
I want her to do my chart now. I want to do a progression chart with her.
Well, just thinking about Mercury retrograde and the symptoms that brings.
Here. Please continue. We were like really into it.
I'm so sorry. It just keeps going out. Yeah, so the sixth house in traditional astrology is associated with, it's called the house of toil, and that can be associated with either, like doing things that you just feel drag on forever. Like if maybe you have a government job and that's just your line of work, or it's also related to physical illness, like long-term chronic illness. And so people who have, if you found the moon, which is related to the body in the sixth house, then I'd say, oh, you're definitely probably going to have some long-term physical illness. And the first house is the house of self, which is related to not only the physical body, but the emotional, the mental, the spiritual. It's like all aspects of the self. And so if you had a malefic planet like Saturn or Mars in the first house, then that could be indicative of there being some sort of impediment to your physical or mental health, or some sort of more aggressive illness with Mars, because Mars is like often said to be the scalpel, something involved in cutting. Maybe there's a tumor that needs to be cut out. But yeah, these are the kinds of things that, like, in medieval time, the astrologers would say to the king, oh, there's Mars is in the first house. He's going to have something cut off of his face or something, you know?
Oh,
But you know, if you were going to go have like a Reiki session, you maybe would want to look at the transits and see what's going on at that time. Like if you had Mars or Saturn in a difficult aspect to your first or sixth house, that would be something to consider.
That's interesting, definitely.
I'm interested in having a little reading done.
Yeah, I would love that. It's so much fun.
I have 5 planets in my 8th house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Imagine that. Bunch of karma.
I have 2 planets in my 8th house, one of which is the moon. It's very complicated, but also it's like there's so many layers to it that you could be like, oh my God, that's so scary. But it's also like there are a lot of really beautiful parts to all of the things that seem really scary.
Interesting.
But it's just like, you know, you go into the dark night of the soul and you're like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here? But you know, there are really positive things that come out of it.
You feel like you're going nuts sometimes in the
oh yeah
right? It was me.
It's definitely important to remember, like, if you do go get a Reiki session, check in with your Reiki provider before you go and check yourself into the hospital or that extreme, because you know they might be able to take you down off the ledge and help you understand a little bit what's going on a little bit more. Because definitely in like when you're doing a tachyon session with me, it's a quantum leap. So I'll have clients come back and they're totally different people, you know, and it's really cool because it does initiate a dark night of the soul kind of, you know, looking into themselves. But I really want people to remember to turn to your spiritual, you know, advisor to help you through that, you know, and don't feel like you're bothering anybody. Just text and they'll get back to you at the right time, you know.
Absolutely.
I think that's like one of the biggest issues that we have as a society, especially because there are so many people right now that are becoming more conscious and aware. We just don't have the infrastructure for it because we don't live in a way that supports like traditional medicine people anymore. And you know, they're in a lot of cultures, they still have like a medicine person that's what they do. They don't have a job where they earn the money. They're just the person who does that in the community. And if anyone was going through something, then that is exactly who you go talk to because they can help you. They know what's happening, you know?
It's true.
But we do have to be responsible as healers and, you know, use discretion, you know, tell our clients, use discretion, but yes, go see your medical provider. You know, if you feel it's necessary, please do, you know, because, you know, cover our bases. Yes, it'll help you out of emotionally, possibly, but, you know, if you feel like you need extra help, because, you know, I did read up quite a bit when you know, after my first session that things, you know, can go haywire sometimes, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that even though what is happening is caused by energetic movement, it's definitely physiological. And so it's not like the whole idea behind like a holistic approach is to not have just one thing that you're doing, because there are so many different levels to us as beings, right? So you can access everything from each point, but in order to have like really well-rounded support, you need to have all of the access points covered. So the physical, the mental, the spiritual, you know.
Yeah. And really go over those things with newbies, and the detox. The detox.
Yep.
I mean, I'm still doing healing sessions as a client, and I know it's time to go take a nap, you know, go take a bath, go eat whatever you want. You want some protein, go eat some peanut butter, you know?
Yep.
So, yeah.
Always listen to your body. Don't ignore what it's saying.
That's so huge.
A lot of water, right? A lot of water.
Yes.
A lot of water.
I am super interested in like hearing more about the astrology with this whole thing.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I don't know if Michelle is. I know I am. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll talk about it a little bit. So the planet that I'd say is oftentimes related to these sorts of like, the buzzword here is transformative situations in life, is Pluto. Pluto is the farthest planet from us, and it's actually gone in and out of style as a planet, you know, for the past, I guess, like 50 or so years. People are like, no, it's not a planet. Yes, it is a planet. So I think it's a planet again, not quite sure. But for astrological purposes and symbolic purposes, it definitely counts. So in modern astrology, it has been given rulership over the sign of Scorpio, which is then also related to transformation. And I actually do think of Scorpio a lot when I think about Ascension, because it's said that all of the water signs represent the emotions, but Scorpio can really be like the whole range of human emotion and experience. And so it's like from the darkest depths, your shadows, the really like grotesque bits of ourselves that we don't want to accept, to like the most elevated and enlightened and like transformed parts of ourselves. One of the images that's related in modern astrology to Scorpio is the phoenix who rises from the ashes. There are definitely places where we are more likely to sink into our darker, more muddy nature with Scorpio. And I mean, as someone who has a fair amount of scorpionic influence in their chart, like, you know, these are the people that will feel comfortable, not like comfortable like I enjoy this, but like comfortable like I know this is part of who I am, with these really intense, life-changing experiences. And these are the people who will have them over and over in their lives, like deaths and, you know, really difficult, like physical issues, or having to deal with people in their lives who have illnesses. And you know, it can even be, it depends on where it is in your chart, but, you know, it can be like a really difficult relationship that ends, or a person in your life who is very difficult, who is just, you know, part of your family that you deal with over and over again. But yeah, I'd say Scorpio people who have like great Scorpio influence are going to be the most comfortable with this.
Well, good for them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, either one of you have had to do with past lives in a dark night of the soul type, karmic type. I don't know how to word this. I was just thinking where it shows up in your chart. where do past lives typically show up in your chart?
So that's that depends on what school of thought you ascribe to. I don't necessarily have like one that I specifically follow, but I do study traditional Hellenistic astrology, and there's not a whole lot of talk in the chart about past lives, but I know in evolutionary astrology, which is a newer, it's a modern form of astrology. They talk about how Pluto represents, things that you've experienced in past lives. I've heard people also talk about your quote unquote dynamic aspects in your chart being negative karmas, and your harmonious aspects being positive karmas that you've worked really hard on in past lives, so this time you get to have it easy. Or the negative karmas being things that you've kind of mucked around with in past lives and now you're having a really difficult time with. But I think that everyone just has to feel it out and see what feels right for them in their own chart, because I've had people read my chart, studying a certain way and just like come down really hard and really dark. And I'm like, yes, but not completely, like it's this and other stuff, not just this,
Right. Or you're not seeing it right.
Yeah.
It's like, it's flip-flop. No, you don't, it's flip-flopped here, So yeah, it's like with me, working with the client, and like in my last show, it has to resonate with the client.
Totally.
So
yeah, I think that and a lot of people say this, a lot of my astrology teachers have said this, like, you're always going to be your best astrologer, your own best astrologer. So if you can learn how to read those symbols and apply them to your own chart, then it'll make so much more sense to you. However, it's always helpful to have an objective person's viewpoint, whether they really understand the nuance of it. Like, they might bring something to your attention that you didn't see.
Exactly.
And if it triggers you, then you need to work on that.
Yeah, totally.
I agree with, it does need to resonate with the client. I've had people say, oh, I got a reading and it was totally negative, and they leave feeling really not good about the reading, and they're not going to go back to that reader. As much as you don't want to just tell the client whatever, you still also don't want to come down extra hard on somebody. But as clients, sometimes we want to explain. I get this a lot of times where I have clients going, no, that's not it. And I said, I'm just dropping breadcrumbs, take it or leave it, pick what works for you. But our logical mind wants to grasp onto and explain that we don't do that, or we have gone through that. And so on one hand, it is up to the healer to say these things in a gentle way, but it's also up to us to decipher it and not let it just sink us down, that we learn from it and take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, you have to be a compassionate healer and being an articulate, compassionate counselor, so to speak.
Exactly, because that's hard to bring up dark aspects to people. And how do you discuss dark aspects and still keep them as a client? That's another challenge, right?
Yeah.
Because there's parts of them that they don't want to see. And then another thing is, if you become friends with clients, you really can't effectively address dark night of the soul. But sometimes you don't really understand their dark night of the soul until you are their friend.
Michelle.
like, girlfriend, let's talk about your dark night of the soul.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh,
That becomes a weird line, you know, healing.
well, you guys are healers now. I don't think I've ever sent anybody into the dark night of the soul yet. I mean, that's on them, really. But what's the best advice you could give somebody? I mean, go slow, take it easy, do a lot of self-care. Outside of that, what do you tell them?
One thing everybody should know is the suicide hotline, honestly. And
Mhm.
I worked with an emotionally disturbed clientele. And as healers, we also don't have like these degrees in these Western medicine background per se, but we could be bringing up things that are dark night of the soul, but they be very overwhelming. So I think as a healer that we should know how to refer somebody to, like you said, get the medical help when they really, really need it. Because if they really do feel like they're going to hurt themselves, that's the last thing we want. So I think that's really huge, is making sure that, and what I do and what we did at the group home, when I worked at the group home, I would literally get people to write out contracts that they weren't going to hurt themselves if they felt like they wanted to hurt themselves. So they make a promise, write out a letter stating they won't, that they will turn to getting help before they go and hurt themselves. So I think that is probably the most dangerous aspect of spiritual healing without, a background in social and behavior science or, emotional disturbances. I do have that background, which I think really helps me, but we can't take that lightly.
Yeah.
No, always refer to a medical professional.
Mhm.
This is not a replacement. It's a
Absolutely.
compliment. It's complimentary.
And even in places like India, Western and Eastern are working hand in hand. That's where we're really winning. And another thing about the dark night of the soul right now, that medical field itself is going through its own dark night of the soul. I'm seeing medical field workers not want to be there anymore.
Interesting.
Because they're seeing the separation of holistic, and the coronavirus is shining the light on, the medical field. It really is.
Interesting. So we've got a couple minutes left, and I wanted to give each one of you an opportunity to, because I didn't do this at the beginning, to tell us where you're at, what type of healings you do, what other work you do, where people can find you. So we'll start with you, Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you. So my name is Sarah Landau, and I am a certified holistic nutritionist, a Reiki master, an astrologer, and I am a chef. I work at the Great Basin Community Food Co-op doing their recipe development and brand coordination. So if you go in there and you grab something from a cold case, then there's a good possibility that I made that recipe. There's a great team over there. They execute very well. As far as my astrology and my Reiki, I'm not really doing Reiki right now. I was working at Healing One. We had to close because of coronavirus. And then we are moving into a new location. So we'll be up and running soon. hopefully with a lot of regulations. But my astrology work I can do remotely. You can find more information about that and my blogs on the full and new moon that I do every month on my website at heartpathwell.com.
Awesome.
All right, and I am Tachyon Crystal Healer Michelle Strange. I work out of Hidden Beauty in Modesto, which is on Drake Avenue, right off McHenry and near the Orangeburg area. I have a website, tachyoncrystalhealer.com, and I work with Tachyon, which is high vibrational crystals. I have a crystal bed. I do yoni steaming, which you sit on a box and steam your vagina with an herbal mixture.
It's awesome.
It is awesome. And talk about dark night of the soul. Your womb goes through a dark night of the soul. And I play a yoni healing meditation that is amazing, and it's Native American. It's beautiful. And then I also do essential oil anointing. So I can do different doTERRA techniques with my tachinized oil. And I do tarot readings, pendulum readings, and chakra diagnosis, balancing, any crystal recommendations. I do Reiki. I'm a Reiki master, do Reiki certifying. Also crystal healing certifying, and certifying working with tachyon items. And that's what I do. So you can find me on crystalhealer.com.
tachyoncrystalhealer.com. I shared both of your heartpathwell.com as well. Sarah, Heartpathwell.
Yep.
I saw your beautiful dishes that you post. It makes me hungry.
Yeah, I've kind of like started posting my own pictures of the food that I make because it doesn't always come out as I'm making it into the kitchen, and I want to get people excited about it before it's even there, you know?
Awesome. Next
What
one.
would be really exciting is to find out like magical properties of the ingredients.
Oh, I love
What
that.
magic they're doing with their little meal, like lemongrass, for instance, is used a lot in conjuring. And if you're using in your meals, what are you doing with it there? And that's always so fun. And I'm not very good cook or very good meal planner. But once I started learning some magical aspects of herbs, I started thinking, wow, those are really doing some cool things. Just the act of salting and peppering is amazing.
Yes. Yeah, I do some, I'm kind of like an amateur herbalist, and I use that with some of my energetic work as well. And I actually recently did a ceremony for two of my really good friends who were doing a vow renewal, and they asked me to come and like create they didn't even really know what they were asking me for, and I didn't know what they were asking me for, but I was like, I'm going to make an altar for you. So I went out into the woods and I found all of these native plants from the Sierra Nevada, and I brought them and I thoughtfully put together this really beautiful altar for them to do their vows in. And I told them about the symbolism of all of the plants and, you know, how supporting they were. And it was really special. I love doing stuff like that.
Yes.
Amazing. That's cool. I'm going to have to start doing that on a daily basis.
Yeah. I mean, there's just like, there's so much magic around us all the time, and all we really have to do is bring our attention to it. And I think about this with plants all the time because I've always been a plant person, like whether it's eating food that is a plant or using medicine that is a plant, or, you know, just enjoying the plant. I feel like at this point in my life, the medicine is so much more in just having an interaction with it than using it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like just having the
Yes.
appreciation and the presence and the attention.
Exactly.
Amazing.
I recall going to a meditation that Wanda put on at Nourishment for the Soul in Modesto. Do you recall that with the mugwort?
Yeah, we all did mugwort, and I got so
Ooh.
goofy off of that mugwort.
I was right next to Michelle.
I
And
love mugwort, and have you heard of moxibustion?
Yeah,
what?
I love
Moxibustion.
moxibustion.
You can clear meridians, and you put these little. It's almost like ear candling. So they have mugwort sticks, and they have little mugwort pods, and you place them on the body at the meridian, and it clears the energetic line. So look that up, moxibustion.
Yeah.
Right here.
It's a Chinese medicine technique that clears energy. So,
Interesting.
yes,
I still
I
have to
love
ask.
it. It's my favorite thing when I get acupuncture.
really.
Cool. Michelle, I have to ask you, do you have an association with the Blue Indian?
I don't know. What is that?
When we were doing that meditation that night, you were on the floor next to me, and I kept I didn't know if this Blue Indian belonged to me or you. I was standing
Well,
like right here.
you know Lynn Hill?
That sounds familiar.
She's an astrologer at a Modesto, and she told me I had a spirit guide of two Native Americans. So that definitely could be true.
Wow, that's trippy. I mean, because what it looked like to me, I'm like, I don't think it belonged to me. I think it belongs to you, and that's why I've been meaning. I mean, it's been a couple of years since this has happened, right? But it was like a tobacco, the wooden tobacco statues that they would have outside of the tobacco stores.
Yeah.
It was blue.
Did it have a headdress?
Yes.
I have. It could be the one that says they had a headdress.
Yeah. They were all decked out. But I'm like, oh, that's weird. But
Wow.
that was like a really good experience with the mugwort meditation. And I'm sure like that would probably help with, the dark night of the soul and the signs and symptoms, and just to take it down, because that was just amazing. Because we did it we did a meditation before without the mugwort, and then we did another meditation after, and taking in the mugwort. So that's really
so cool.
Yeah.
Well,
really
did you have anything to add that maybe you didn't get in edgewise?
I'm good.
You're good?
Yes, I said a lot.
How about you, Sarah? You got anything else to add tonight?
I don't think so.
Will you come back on and maybe we'll do an astrology show? Do you have colleagues that do astrology as well? Friends? Okay, I think we're losing her.
Sorry, my connection is really weird right now. But yeah, I do. I have a few friends who are professional astrologers, but I have a lot of friends who are amateur astrologers that know actually quite a bit. So yeah, I have people that I'm sure would love to be part of that.
Somebody that does Vedic astrology as well. Do you know anyone that
I have a friend who does Vedic astrology. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, ladies, I want to say thank you. This is Spiritual Alchemy Energy Transfigurations, the podcast. And Have a good night.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you,
Thank
ladies.
you.